Question is this. In the last 15 years, the city of Merriam has experienced a tremendous amount of growth, which has enhanced their commercial tax base and taken relief off the residents in order to fund vital civic functions. In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge facing Merriam today that, if not addressed over the next 4 years, would create a substantial challenge? And I almost want to throw an asterisk outside of the floodplain because I think that's too easy. So.
One of the things that I love about the city of Merriam is our neighborhoods, and particularly in our northern zone. You know, it's got that small town feel. It's got that, and I bother people. I sit on my porch and wave. Everybody drives by and annoy the heck out of them. I know to do that. So, and I love that because they wave back, and that's that small town feel. In those neighborhoods, I'd like to see us. And I don't know if it's a challenge, but challenge may not be the right word.
Sure.
Where I want to see us go with that is that connectivity. We put street lights in, make them safer. I've been doing a lot of walking this summer, and a lot of sidewalks need help. A lot of help. Streets are good, but sidewalks, and you know, I think that's going to help with the connectivity, with the safety of our neighborhoods. I think we need to look at going there into our neighborhoods. We've talked about incentives for down here. We do have a grant program for incentive for homeowners. I would like to see us do other things, other incentives to help with that connectivity, the neighborhoods, and bringing that together. That is a very important part of what this city's all about.
Thank you very much. Ms. Newkirk, the question is to you.
Would you say it again? Because in my head I was thinking floodplain, so I need to hear the question again. Well, okay, but that in my head, that's where I was thinking.
Okay, so I'm going to try to paraphrase this because in the last 15 years, Merriam's done a great job with their growth. They've increased their commercial tax base. They've taken financial pressure off the residents with regards to vital civic functions. In your mind, what is the biggest challenge outside of the creek that you feel needs to be addressed, and if not addressed now, will create a greater challenge?
You know, I think that in Merriam, we have sort of, it's an older city, and so we have a lot of aging housing, a lot of older housing, and within those older houses, we also have aging residents. But also, we have sort of a newer area as well, some newer housing, younger residents, and so we sort of have a split of residents within Merriam. Older housing, older residents, but then some newer housing and newer residents. And so the city sort of has a challenge, I think, in meeting the needs of the older housing and the older residents and the newer housing and the newer residents. And so I think it's tough, and it's going to be difficult, especially going forward, for the city to find ways to meet the needs of all of its residents because they have such diverse needs. And I think especially the older housing and the older residents trying to keep up with that as it goes on, and we have to make repairs and deal with codes. And I think also with the older residents, as they move into some care facilities, then those houses sometimes go to rentals, and then that creates kind of a different aspect. And sort of, you were talking about a sense of community. When they go to rentals, they have to kind of work on creating that sense of community as well.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ms. Evans-Hands, the question is to you.
I agree with Mr. Diebold. I'm not sure it's a challenge, but I think what we're going to have to keep as top of mind always is balance. We need to balance our new things with taking care of our infrastructure. We need to balance, if we're going to look at tax incentives, with what is really good for the residents. So I think balance is really going to be the big word for me for the next 4 years. Thanks.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Neal, the question is now to you, sir.
Could you possibly repeat that one more time?
I'm going to walk it over.
I actually heard it, I think, as more of a, an economic development, finance kind of question, tax-based question, and I'm not, could you read it?
No, I just basically, the gist of the question, and I'll kind of paraphrase it just to get to where we're at, is, and I'll use the word challenge/opportunity. What do you believe is the greatest challenge/opportunity, if not addressed in the next 4 years, will create an even greater challenge for the city of Merriam moving forward?
But with respect to, you know,
Anything.
Okay,
It's
well,
not
all right.
tied
So I'm gonna
into
take this,
anything.
I'll take this in a little bit different direction because I sort of heard it as a question regarding the challenges that we may face. And the preamble talked about, you know, the progress we've made in terms of financial stability and city government. Obviously, we're landlocked. We are constrained as far as new developments. We've developed much of what we have using tax increment financing. I think we need to be discerning in the future about how we employ tax increment financing. But I think a bigger problem that may be on the horizon, and somebody going a different direction here, things in Merriam are good. Things in Topeka may not be so good. In terms of Topeka has been steadily encroaching on local governance. The legislature has passed laws limiting the city in terms of what it can do with property taxes. And there's also talk of possibly changing the way sales tax is collected and allocated. Particularly auto dealerships the taxes collected may in fact at some point go back to the buyer's municipality jurisdiction. And if that happens, Merriam's in trouble. So I think we need to also focus on looking without as well and make sure we're really on top of what's going on in the legislature and as a council be very active and vocal in looking after our needs there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Moore, questions to you?
Well, I mean, I really think, you know, we've never been better. You know, I think we need to keep the positive momentum. You know, I don't know that I can see anything that if it doesn't happen in the next 4 years, you know, we're gonna get derailed. But having said that, I think we need to focus on smart redevelopment. You know, there is really no development anymore in Merriam, there's just redevelopment. So we need to think about balance, like Chris said, on what it brings to the city, you know, what sales tax revenue it brings to the city, what it brings to the residents. And we are not, just to keep that balance, I guess, of you know, resident needs and desires to money coming in. And we just need to be smart about that. I can't, you know, we're on the right track, but there's gonna be some redevelopment coming up with Kmart and potentially across the street, so we just need to pay attention to that.
Very good. And thank you all for your very creative